All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into this super popular Indian sitcom, Taarak Mehta ka Ooltah Chashmah, or TMKOC, as I guess most people just call it.
Right, yeah. You always hear the fans calling it that.
Exactly. And, I mean, it's huge GE over in India. Like, we're talking over a decade on the air, which in TV land, that's an eternity. So we're going to be trying to figure out just what is it that's kept this show going for so long? Why do people still love it?
Yeah, that's the real question. I mean, I read through all of these articles, and they're all trying to figure out the same thing, like, what's the secret? It can't just be that the storylines are funny, right?
Right, because there's tons of funny shows, but they don't all last this long.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I noticed everyone kept saying was that the humor is like, I don't know, universal, but what does that even mean? Like, is it just slapstick? Is it something that literally everyone finds funny?
Well, it's definitely not just like slapstick or anything like that. It's more like, one of the articles said it's like situational irony. Like the main character, Jethalal, he's always trying to do something good, but then it always backfires in the most hilarious way.
Oh, yeah, totally. Jethalal is like, I don't know, he's the king of good intentions gone wrong.
Right.
But it's like, well, it's funny because we all do that. Like, we've all had those days where we just mess everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it makes it relatable.
Definitely.
And I guess that's what makes it so family-friendly, too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you don't have to worry about awkward moments when you're watching it with your grandma or your kids.
Yeah, there's none of that, like, I don't know, crude humor. Or anything like that. And that's another thing that a lot of the articles were talking about, that it's clean, wholesome, like good old-fashioned family fun.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. Because I feel like so much content these days it's really niche. It's like they're only trying to appeal to a very specific audience. And TMKOC is like,
Right.
It's the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's almost like a throwback, like back in the day when everyone would watch the same shows.
Right, it creates this shared experience. You can watch it with literally anyone.
Yeah, sure.
So it's not all just lighthearted fun, though, right? Like the articles were talking about how they tackle some pretty serious social issues as well.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, everything from environmentalism to road safety, even things like communal harmony.
Yeah, I was reading about that. But how do they do that without being preachy? Or like turning it into some sort of after-school special?
Well, that's the thing. They're super subtle about it. Like the messages are always woven into the plot. So you're watching and you're laughing along.
Yay.
And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is actually a really important issue.
So they're kind of sneaking in those life lessons while we're busy enjoying the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is really clever. And one of the things that stood out to me was the emphasis on diversity.
Oh, yeah. Gokuldham Society.
It's like a mini India with all these residents from different backgrounds.
Different cultures, different languages.
And they all live together in harmony.
Right.
Which I think is such a powerful message.
Especially in a country like India, which is so diverse.
Exactly. So it's not just about tolerance. It's about celebrating those differences.
It's about embracing them.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of the show's appeal. But we can't talk about TMKOC without talking about the characters.
Oh, of course not.
Like, they're iconic. So where do we even begin? We've got Jethalal, our lovable goofball, always getting into these hilarious scrapes.
And Daya, his wife, with that infectious laugh. And her garba dancing.
Oh, yeah, her garba. It's like a party every time she breaks into a dance.
Exactly. And then you've got Taarak, he's like the voice of reason, always giving Jethalal advice. Yeah. Even though it usually backfires.
Taarak's the best. And we can't forget about Babita, Jethalal's little crush.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
She adds this whole other layer of, I don't know, awkwardness to the show.
It's like watching a middle school crush play out.
Exactly.
But in the most endearing way possible.
And of course, we can't leave out Puppet Law, our forever single journalist.
With his umbrella.
Always looking for the one.
Yeah, I bet everyone knows a Puppet Law.
Oh, definitely.
Someone who's constantly searching for their soulmate. But here's something I was wondering about. We've talked about the humor, the characters, the family-friendly vibe. But how has this show managed to stay relevant in the digital age? Like, the entertainment landscape has changed so much.
Yeah, that's a good question. And a lot of the articles talked about how TMKOC actually made a really smart move. They embraced the digital world.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, they're on YouTube?
Yep. Sony links all sorts of platforms.
So they've made themselves accessible to a global audience.
Exactly. You can watch it anytime, anywhere.
So they really cracked the code to staying relevant.
I think so.
But it's still got that classic sitcom feel.
Right.
So they're appealing to the old fans, but also bringing in this whole new generation of viewers.
Definitely. And you know what else is huge these days?
What's that?
Binge watching.
Oh, yeah.
And TMKOC is perfect for that with its episodic format.
So it's like they've taken this beloved classic and they've made it accessible to a whole new audience.
Exactly.
But it can't just be about being available online, right? Like the show itself has had to adapt.
Absolutely.
Like people's tastes change, expectations change.
For sure.
So how have they managed to keep up with all of that?
Well, that's what's so fascinating about TMKOC. They've been able to evolve. But they've also stayed true to their core values.
So it's like a balancing act.
Yeah, it really is.
And I'm really curious to find out, like, what specific changes have they made and how have those changes gone over with the audience? I guess we'll have to explore that in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. You know, it's really interesting how TMKOC has managed to be both, like, comforting and familiar, but also fresh at the same time. Like the articles mentioned how they've actually started tackling more contemporary issues.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, like, what kind of thing? Did they do an episode about cryptocurrency? Or, like, internet trolls?
No, not quite like that. But they're definitely addressing, like, more modern anxieties. Like, what did the articles mentioned an episode that was about the pressure young people feel to succeed, you know, in today's world.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's, like, so competitive and everyone's trying to be the best.
Yeah, that's definitely a real issue. And I bet seeing it addressed on TMKOC probably makes it, I don't know, less scary for some people.
Yeah, for sure. It's like they're taking these anxieties that we all have and they're making them a little less daunting.
Right, because you're seeing them play out with these characters that you already know and love.
Exactly. And it's not just the storylines either. The articles also talked about how TMKOC is using social media.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like they're really active on Twitter and Instagram.
So they're sharing behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, and they're engaging with the viewers. They even have contests.
Yeah.
So it's like they've created this whole online community around the show.
Right, because it's not just about passively watching anymore. It's about being part of the conversation. Exactly.
But let's be real. A show can't run for over a decade without, I don't know, some changes happening. Like actors move on, life happens. So how has TMKOC handled those changes?
Well, you're right. Change is inevitable. And over the years, TMKOC has definitely had some cast changes. But the articles all emphasized how committed they are to maintaining the show's core identity.
Oh, wow. So how do they do that? Like, how do you keep the essence of a show when the faces are changing?
Yeah, it's tricky. But one of the things they do is when a beloved actor leaves, they don't try to replace them with someone who's like an exact copy.
Oh, okay.
They find someone who can bring something new to the role while still honoring the spirit of the original character.
So it's less about finding an identical replacement and more about, I don't know, finding someone who can embody the essence of the character, but also add their own spin to it.
Right.
Like passing the torch, but keeping the flame alive.
Exactly.
And that seems to be working. Yeah. It really does. I mean, of course, the fans miss the original actors, but they've also embraced the new additions to the cast.
So it's like they've found this way to honor the past while also embracing the future, which I guess is the key to staying relevant for so long.
I think so.
But I bet it's not easy.
Oh, definitely not.
Like balancing those expectations, keeping the old fans happy, while also trying to attract new viewers.
It's a tough job.
But it can't all be smooth sailing, right? Like, there must have been some challenges along the way.
Yeah, of course. There have been criticisms, debates, even controversies.
Controversies. Tell me more.
Well, one article mentioned how some viewers felt like the show was getting a little too repetitive, like they were relying on the same comedic formulas.
So it's like the whole, it's not as good as it used to be argument.
Right.
But it's still going strong, so they must be doing something right.
Exactly. And that's what's so impressive to me. Like, despite those criticisms, TMKOC has remained this beloved show.
So they're adaptable.
Yeah.
They listen to feedback.
They make adjustments when they need to.
But they never lose sight of what makes the show special.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a ship navigating a storm.
Exactly.
It might sway a bit, but it always stays on course. But you know what's really interesting to me?
What's that?
In a world that's so obsessed with drama and being over the top, TMKOC is refreshingly simple.
Yeah.
It's just about everyday life. Those little moments of joy, those relatable struggles.
And somehow it's captivating.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. I think maybe It's what people are craving these days. Like a break from all the noise and chaos, a chance to connect with something familiar, something comforting.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, that warm blanket you reach for on a cold night.
Exactly.
It just makes you feel good.
And the articles actually talked about how that focus on the ordinary is one of the reasons it appeals to so many different generations.
Makes sense.
Because we all have those days, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where things go wrong. We feel lost,
yeah.
overwhelmed. And TMKOC is like, hey, it's okay to laugh at those moments.
Yeah.
It's okay to find humor in the chaos.
Because life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful.
Right.
And I think that's such a powerful message. Like, TMKOC is giving us permission to embrace those imperfections, to find joy in the messiness of it all. Because sometimes the most extraordinary stories are found in the most ordinary places. Like, who would have thought that a sitcom set in a Mumbai apartment complex would become this global phenomenon?
You never know.
And it's a reminder that sometimes the best things in life are the simplest things, the most relatable things.
The things that remind us that we're all in this together.
Exactly.
So I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Yeah, good idea. So it's kind of funny, right? Like, we live in this world where it's all about being bigger, better, faster. But then you've got TMKOC that's just over here like, hey, slow down. Enjoy the simple things.
Yeah, it's like a totally different pace.
And it's refreshing.
Yeah.
All those little joys, those everyday moments.
And those are really the things that make life worth living right.
Absolutely.
And the articles actually talked about that, how TMKOC's focus on the ordinary is a big part of its appeal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's something that everyone can relate to.
Right.
No matter who you are.
Like, we all have those days where everything goes wrong. Or we feel lost. Or just completely overwhelmed.
Totally.
And TMKOC's like, it's okay to laugh about it. It's okay to find the humor in those moments. Because life doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful.
It really doesn't.
And I think that's a really important message. It's like TMKOC is giving us permission to just embrace the imperfections, find the joy in the messiness. Because sometimes the most extraordinary stories are found in those really ordinary places.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, who would have thought that this little sitcom set in a Mumbai apartment complex would become this global phenomenon?
You never know where you're going to find those hidden gems.
And it's also a reminder that sometimes the best things in life are the simplest, the most relatable.
The ones that make you feel connected to something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into TMKOC, I think it's safe to say that this show, it's more than just a sitcom.
Okay.
It's like a cultural touchstone, a reflection of Indian society.
And a celebration of those universal values that connect us all.
Exactly. It makes you laugh. It makes you think.
And it definitely leaves you feeling all warm and fuzzy inside.
So if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out TMKOC. You might just fall in love with the residents of Gokuldham Society.
And their heartwarming adventures.
And it's a good reminder that sometimes the best things in life are those simple things. The things that remind us that we're all in this together.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those deep dives going.